Ladies and gentlemen, the President of the United States and the First Lady of the United States. Ladies and gentlemen, would you please rise for the presentation of colors by the honor guard of the veterans of foreign wars. Please remain standing for our national anthem, sung today by Mr. David Squibb, an Army veteran of the Normandy invasion, Staff Sergeant Joseph Wilkerson, Cha Vo, and Melissa Fairbank.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets' red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Reverend Nathan D. Baxter, Dean of the National Cathedral.
Let us pray. Eternal God, above whom there is no other, we thank you for bringing us to the dawn of a new millennium. We, the people of these United States, recognize you by many names: Adonai, Allah, Great Spirit, Abba, Father, and so many more. Yet by whatever name we bless you, we thank you for this great land we call America, for its spacious skies and amber grain, its purple mountains and fruited plains. This land has made us rich, but we have often exploited your creation. O God, in this new millennium, increase our spirit of stewardship. We also thank you for the great diversity of our people, this wonderful array of races and cultures, of colors and tongues we call America. We are a democratic mosaic, but too often we have hidden its beauty from one another. Oh God, in this new millennium, increase our spirit of justice. We thank you for this time of economic prosperity, for this age of technological and scientific riches, but we also acknowledge our responsibility for those among us in want of shelter and food, education and safety, and the touch of human kindness. O God, in this new millennium, increase our spirit of compassion. We thank you for sound government and a time of peace at home. Guide and bless those who lead us now and in the future, especially the President of these United States, the Congress, the Supreme Court, and the leaders of our states. Make us ever conscious of our responsibility among the nations of the world. O God, in this new millennium, help us to build a global village. And so we celebrate today. Our hearts are filled with joy, and our spirits burst with expectation. Give us your blessings, so that we, as people of one God and of one nation, may lift every voice and sing, till earth and heaven ring, ring with the harmonies of liberty. Let our rejoicings rise high as the listening skies. Let it resound loud as the rolling sea. Amen.
Ladies and gentlemen, please be seated. The nation's poet laureate and consultant in poetry to the Library of Congress, Robert Pinsky.
A toast for 2000. And here's to memory that numbers all the years. Here, tipped at the arbitrary border, we living on the night of cameras, dancing, and champagne, drink to those others who come behind or ahead. We pray that the past and future be forgiving, the not yet born in their invisible chain, and nearly as hard for us to see, the dead. Overlook the times we haven't paid them heed, as we forgive them for giving less thought to us than we might like. In our abundant time of clever machines, some of us live in need. Our beloved gadgets are fearsome and mysterious. Great-grandparents, though forgetting is no crime, we strain to remember you and raise a glass. Great-grandchildren, do the same. The triple zeros that mark the millennial year are like three spheres, or lights, or chain links. As the centuries pass, past, present, and future, victims, villains, and heroes, each crosses the calendar border and disappears, or lives in memory that numbers all the years.
the New Millennium Choir singing Rising by the Sun. Ladies and gentlemen, the Mayor of the District of Columbia, the Honorable Anthony Williams.
Let me wish a Happy New Year to everyone in our country, our beautiful country, and our ever more beautiful nation's capital. Happy New Year to all of you. Give yourselves a big hand. You're a beautiful crowd. And let me acknowledge the folks that we have here, in addition to the distinguished guests we have out in our audience and participating in the program. I want to first, of course, acknowledge our president. One of my favorite presidents, 140 so years ago, talked about a new birth of freedom, and he really transformed our country and lifted our country up to a new vision. I think that our city is on the verge of a new birth of democracy and a new renaissance, and I think a lot of that foundation was laid by our president in the number of things that he's done for this city with a revitalization plan, the partnership with us and the federal agencies in many, many different ways to strengthen families and education, to better support our children, provide homes for children and adopted, on and on and on again. A real friend of our city, our president, President Clinton. Thank you for what you're doing. And of course, our First Lady, who has also been a great partner of our city, working very closely with us in so many different ways, now currently residing at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue. But I have a feeling, and we're all going to be working hard on this, to see that she gets a job up on Capitol Hill in the policy area and resides in our city in the future as well. Am I right? Thank you. Reverend Baxter, Dean Baxter, for his great leadership in our faith community and at the National Cathedral. Robert Pinsky for his words of inspiration. David Squibb for that national anthem. We're going to hear from Denise Graves, who's graced us all over and over again with her artistry and her warmth. Thank all of you. And I also want to take this opportunity, of course, to thank all of our partners and sponsors. Possible because, quite frankly, we wouldn't be standing here but for their contribution. I know all of those who thought we might be too afraid to move forward with this celebration have been proven wrong. That we would give in to rumors or paranoia have been proven wrong, haven't they? Because this city and this country stands for open community. This city stands for community coming together, working together, succeeding together. That's what we're about today, and we have proven them wrong, because this is going to be a safe celebration. It's going to be a family celebration, and it's going to be a celebration worthy of our nation's flagship city, worthy of the greatest nation in the history of the earth. And you know, our city is experiencing a renaissance. It's experiencing a renaissance economically, it's experiencing a renaissance financially, democratically, spiritually, and culturally. There's a new sense of enthusiasm sweeping through our city, of optimism about our future, and of community togetherness. Like a couple weeks ago, and we had over 3,000 people at our Citizen Summit working over 6 hours to craft a vision for our city and strategies for rebuilding our neighborhoods. Think about that, 3,000 people from all walks of life working for community in America's capital. And that's what we're about today. America's Millennium belongs to all of us as citizens in this city, all of us as Americans. And it's also a celebration, very importantly, of Washington, D.C. and our 200th birthday as our nation's capital. And I say to the President and I say to Mrs. Clinton, we're standing here on the stage of Millennium, Washington, the District of Columbia's contribution to America's Millennium. And as its name suggests, our Main Street Millennium will be a celebration of our neighborhoods, the rich tapestry that makes up our great city. From this stage and 4 others, we're going to hear music of some of Washington's legendary entertainers. We'll use the internet to link up with sister cities from around the world. And with the help of our many exhibitors and restaurants and performers, we'll give residents and visitors the chance to taste, the chance to touch, hear, and see what it means to live in this great city, America's city, Washington, D.C. Now, a great city is going to be on display for the next 2 years, 2 days, well, 2 years as well, but 2 days for all the world to see. A city of great diversity and of great, proud people. A city with a renewed sense of vitality, and most of all, a city that knows that our brightest days are yet to come as we march into this new century, as we march into this new millennium with our heads finally held high. Thank all of you for being here to celebrate this with us, and for your commitment, your dedication, and your contribution to making Washington the greatest capital in the world. Thank you all very much. We appreciate it. And now at this point, I, about 30 minutes ago, had the opportunity to meet 2 people from South Dakota, and they were reporting that everybody out in South Dakota right now is wearing bikinis and swim trunks because I guess they're having record high temperatures out there, so it's quite balmy out there. But they're very, very proud of their son, and they have every right to be, these 2 proud parents. And it's now my distinct privilege to introduce you to their son, a man who cares deeply about this city, a city that's become his second home. And he's a friend to our city and one of our nation's great leaders. He really is. And on behalf of all of our citizens, and I'm sure on behalf of his parents, I'm proud to welcome the senior senator of South Dakota and the Senate Minority Leader. Please receive well and handsomely the Honorable Tom Daschle. Senator Daschle.
Thank you very much. President Clinton, Mrs. Clinton, Mayor Williams, Robert Pinsky and Reverend Baxter, friends from across all of America and throughout the world, Happy New Year. This is an amazing day. On behalf of the United States Senate, the Congressional Millennium Committee, and a grateful nation, I know you all join me in thanking the First Lady for all that she and her staff have done to put together this celebration. This is a day about which we will tell our children and our grandchildren. I remember when I was a boy, I used to try to imagine the year 2000. Back then, the new millennium seemed as far away as Mars. Now, it is just hours away. It is not easy to imagine the future. It is even difficult sometimes to imagine the past, to really understand all that we've been through these last 1,000 years. This past millennium has included too much strife, too much bloodshed, too much destruction. But it has also produced extraordinary discoveries and advances, from the invention of the printing press to the creation of the internet. In this century alone, Albert Einstein harnessed the awful power of the atom. And leaders like Mahatma Gandhi and Martin Luther King showed us how to change the world by harnessing the spiritual power of nonviolent resistance. Standing on the mall just yards from here, Dr. King challenged us to dream of a better future and to make that future happen. That is a challenge not just for this century or this millennium, but for all time and for all people. We have all our own ideas about the most important person or event of these last 1,000 years. As for me, I believe the greatest achievement of this millennium has been the birth, here in America, of a true and lasting democracy. A government of the people, by the people, and for the people. A government that is not perfect, but is not afraid to admit its shortcomings and strive for a more perfect union. That is America's genius and our gift at this time to the world. George Washington, Thomas Jefferson, Abraham Lincoln, these are some of the giants whose names will be forever linked with freedom and democracy. In our own lifetimes, we have seen new names linked to theirs. Courageous leaders like Nelson Mandela, Václav Havel, Lech Walesa, who have helped widen the circle of freedom throughout the world. And today, we remember them. But we also remember other people too. People whose names were known in many cases only to their friends and families, but who believed in freedom and sacrificed for it, and in doing so, helped keep freedom alive. People like Peter Fetscher. Peter Fetscher was a carpenter's apprentice in what used to be called East Germany. I first heard his story in 1991 in the New Berlin, standing where the wall once ran like an ugly gash. A German friend told me about how in August of 1962, nearly a year to the day after the work on the Berlin Wall had begun, Peter Fetscher and a friend in East Berlin tried to scale the wall and escape to freedom. They were young men, just 18 years old. They got over the first barbed wire fence, ran the 10 yards or so to the wall, and reached it just as the first shots were fired. The friend managed to climb to safety, but Peter did not. He was shot by a guard's bullet and crumpled to the ground. For nearly an hour, he lay bleeding in the no man's land between East and West, between freedom and oppression. People gathered on the west side of the wall could hear his screams, but they were prevented from reaching him by the armed guards on the other side. Finally, the guards dragged him away by his feet and took him to a hospital where he died. Not everyone who tried to scale the wall failed. 10 years ago, the wall Peter Fetcher could not hurdle was smashed to rubble. Today, near the spot where he lay dying, there is a museum. Inside the Checkpoint Charlie Museum, it is a display of the countless ingenious ways people found to go over and under and around the wall. Standing in that museum, what you are struck by is the power of the human urge toward freedom and the enormous risks people have taken throughout history to be free. As we enter this new millennium, let us treasure our own freedom. But let us also remember that there are still many Peter Fetchers all over the world. And let us be as brave and ingenious as those who came before us. In that way, we can continue to widen the circle of freedom. And that ought to be our challenge for this new millennium. Now it is my high honor and personal privilege to announce and introduce a person who has fought for freedom and dedicated his life to public service through freedom his entire life, the President of the United States, Bill Clinton.
Thank you. Good morning. Happy New Year. Thank you, Senator Daschle. To other members of the Congress who are here, thank you, Mayor Williams, for your kind comments to Hillary and to me and your outstanding leadership in this city. Thank you, Robert Penske, for being here today and for opening the ears and eyes and hearts of so many young children to the wonders of poetry. Thank you, Dean Baxter. I want to thank the children's choir and the military band. They were wonderful today. And the singing sergeants who have left. I want to thank Ellen Lovell and the members of our Millennium Council and Terry McAuliffe and all those who made it possible for us to have all these wonderful events today. I also want to thank the Lord for this wonderful weather, so we all feel good being out here. The New Millennium Choir sang Rising Like the Sun. Their vitality and their voices are living proof that the light may be fading on the 20th century, but the sun is still rising on America. Even though this is an opening ceremony, what we celebrate did not begin today, and it won't end tomorrow. 2 years ago, Hillary and I created the White House Millennium Council to bring Americans together, in her words, to honor our past and imagine our future. Since then, she has hosted Millennium Evenings at the White House with some of our nation's most gifted scholars and artists, and people all over the world have participated on the internet. She has crisscrossed America to save our historical treasures, from Harriet Tubman's home to Thomas Edison's factory to Native American pueblos. This morning, we kick off not only a weekend of celebrations, but a whole series of events throughout the coming year that will further mark our new millennium. This is more than a unique moment for our calendar. It is also a unique moment for our country. Our economy is strong. Our social fabric is on the mend. We're moving forward on America's remarkable journey of creating a more unified nation, a more just society, a more perfect union. There is no better moment to reflect on our hopes and dreams and the gifts we want to leave our children. No better opportunity to open a new chapter of progress and possibility for all people. No better time to join hands and build the one America of our dreams. No better time to be a truly good neighbor to the people of the world who share this smaller and smaller planet of ours. So as we honor the past, let us truly imagine the future. I hope every single one of you, sometime today, and everyone within the sound of my voice, will take just a little time to dream about what you want for your grandchildren and their grandchildren, and what you would like the story of the 21st century to be. Now it is my privilege to present the person who has done more than anyone else in America to help us appreciate and properly celebrate the dawn of the new millennium. Ladies and gentlemen, the First Lady of the United States.
Good morning. Thank you all for being here this morning on this glorious day to be part of the millennial celebrations. I too wish to thank our poet laureate, Robert Pinsky, and Reverend Baxter for their beautiful, wise, and inspiring words. And it has been a delight to hear the voices and music of so many generations, a World War II veteran, our current servicemen, and the new Millennium Choir. I look forward to hearing from Washington, D.C. native Denise Graves, who always sounds magnificent. I thank Senator Daschle for joining us here today and for his extraordinary remarks. And I also thank the other congressional co-chairs of America's Millennium, Senate Majority Leader Trent Lott, Speaker Dennis Hastert, and Minority Leader Dick Gebhardt. My thanks also go to the Kovler Family Foundation and the Smithsonian Institution and Rashid Chaudhry and Kamran Khan for hosting this opening ceremony. I also thank Terry McAuliffe and the America's Millennium Leadership Committee, particularly InfoUSA.com, Slim Fast Foods Company, and Cisco, who've done so much to make these days possible. I particularly thank Mayor Williams and the City of Washington for the extraordinary effort they've put into making this celebration one that is accessible and free to all of the residents of the greater DC area. And I thank the members of the President's Cabinet who are joining us. There are many distinguished guests in this vast audience, including some of our team leaders for our explorations in space, which is one of the ways we imagine the future. I know that Donna Shirley is here, who led the team that landed the rover on Mars, and at least 2 astronauts, Roger Crouch and Wendy Lawrence. They will all be speaking later today at the National Air and Space Museum, to which you are invited. And I thank the various AmeriCorps volunteer teams who are helping us this weekend. So to everyone who, under the leadership of Ellen Lovell and the White House Millennium Council, have made these days and this event possible, we appreciate all of your efforts. Now just think for a minute of the items, the events, and the ideas of this century that you would put into a time capsule that you think would really represent the United States in the American century. A transistor, Louis Armstrong's trumpet, a piece of the Berlin Wall. Take any of these items and it alone could tell a story of the 20th century. It was, after all, the transistor that launched the information age and enabled man to walk on the moon. It was Satchmo's trumpet that heralded the rise of jazz and of American music all over the world. And it was a broken block of concrete covered in graffiti from the Berlin Wall that announced the triumph of democracy over dictatorship. These are just some of the items that will be placed along with scores of other objects representing the ideas and innovations that shaped the American century into our National Millennium Time Capsule. Almost 3 years ago, when the White House Millennium Council began planning a celebration for the National Mall built around our theme to honor the past and imagine the future, we decided that an important way to capture this moment in time would be by filling a national time capsule, filled not only with the symbols and achievements of the century just past, but with our hopes and dreams for the next. We invited the thinkers and builders and creators of this century, all the past recipients of our nation's highest honors in the arts and humanities, in science and technology, in citizenship and leadership, as well as the thinkers and builders and creators of the future, the students who are taught by the state teachers of the year across America. We asked them all to help us fill this time capsule, and their responses have been overwhelming. Teachers and students nominated computers, while scientists nominated the transistors that made them possible. Bruce Penniman's English class in Amherst, Massachusetts, sent a highlighted copy of Ralph Ellison's The Invisible Man, while novelist Philip Roth recommended works by William Faulkner and Saul Bellow. June Moore's second grade class in Laramie, Wyoming, selected the sport of baseball, while playwright August Wilson suggested a recording by Bessie Smith. When it came to hopes for the future, the young people and adults spoke as one: world peace, cures for cancer and AIDS, an end to hunger and racism. I was also impressed by how children were determined to shape the future for themselves. Helping others is at the very top of my list of careers, wrote a student from Nevada, while another 7-year-old from Idaho wrote, I wish that all children can have a loving family. I wish someday I will help the world. In a few minutes, we will invite some of these students and leading citizens to share their nominations for the time capsule. Now, the prototype is sitting right there. It was created by Pentagram Design, Inc., and the time capsule will be made of 3 metals: steel for the industrial age, copper for the information age, and titanium for the age to come. As you can see, it is molded in the shape of a waving American flag, symbolizing our optimistic country that is always in motion, always moving forward, always pushing back the frontiers of technology and progress, of tolerance and justice. This prototype will go on display in the National Museum of American History. And at the end of the year, after all of the items have been received and selected, the actual time capsule will be exhibited and sealed at the National Archives, where it will remain until it is opened 100 years from today. Throughout the weekend, the President and I invite you to visit the capsule and to enjoy the various programs at the Smithsonian, from symposia on great Americans of the past and present, Thomas Jefferson, Elizabeth Cady Stanton, and B.B. King, to sessions pondering the future of American taste and the future of American democracy. And we invite you to take your children to the Story Circle at the National Museum of American History. And of course, you are all invited to come to the Lincoln Memorial tonight to join us in a national celebration of America's millennium. But by no means will the celebration end at the stroke of midnight tonight. Throughout this millennial year, the White House Millennium Council will lead even more efforts to honor the past and imagine the future. We will continue to recruit more citizens to work together to save America's treasures, whether it's the home of a great American such as Harriet Tubman, or letters from a soldier in wartime, or a family scrapbook that may just be sitting in the attic somewhere. We will continue to open new Millennium trails in our most scenic parks and historic sites. And through the Millennium Green program, we hope to inspire every single American to plant a tree for future generations to enjoy. And through the National Endowment for the Humanities Project, My History is America's History, we hope to help every child in America value their own family histories and honor our nation's immigrant past and present. This time capsule is one of our gifts to the future, a gift that will convey to our great-grandchildren and their children what it was like and what we were thinking at the end of the 20th century. In many ways, what our descendants find inside this capsule can be viewed not merely as a relic of the past, but as this generation's promise to the future. There will be a photo of Rosa Parks in the days after that fateful bus ride to serve to remind us not only of her courage, but of our solemn pledge to move forward in the long march toward justice and to live even closer to our ideals of freedom and equality. The model of the DNA double helix will be placed in the capsule, not just as a symbol of one of the greatest scientific breakthroughs of all history, but of our commitment to completing the Human Genome Project, cracking the code of life, and putting it to work for the good of humanity. And the film of Neil Armstrong's Walk on the Moon must also be our pledge to keep America the world's leading spacefaring nation. So all of us have a chance to work to give these gifts and so many others to the future. The gifts of our natural monuments and historic places preserved, the gift of safe schools and a world-class education for our children, the gift of quality, affordable health care for all Americans, the gift of peace and justice on earth. If we make this historic millennial weekend and the millennial year to come a time for Thanksgiving, each one of us will be able to do as the President suggested, not merely to think of what we might want or what we would wish for, but what we can do to create the future we all hope and dream for. I hope that all of us, as we contemplate this passing of the calendar, will think of our own ways of giving gifts to the future and imagine the kind of world we could help to create. Now, I would like to invite our special guests to step forward and to announce their contributions to our National Millennium Time Capsule. Thank you all very much.
John Hope Franklin, former chair of the President's Initiative on Race and Duke University Professor of History Emeritus.
Mr. President, First Lady, distinguished platform guests, ladies and gentlemen, my suggestion, simply stated, is the 14th Amendment, ratified by the people of the United States in 1868. It granted citizenship to all persons born or naturalized in the United States and promised them equal protection of the laws. While this would appear quite simply, clearly stated, it is surely one of the most hotly contested provisions of our Constitution. It has been interpreted in various ways by citizens, legislative, and other public officials, and by the courts. Many wonder if indeed it provides equal protection. If we are to honor our past, The 14th Amendment is a critical document for doing so, as indeed it is essential to any agenda that looks to the future and grants full and complete equality and protection to all persons. It is my honor to place in the National Millennium Time Capsule a copy of the 14th Amendment.
Shamiqua Washington, 7th grade student at Plum Point Middle School, Huntingtown, Maryland.
I dream one day college will be free so that I can become a teacher, trying my best and helping them so students become leaders.
Peggy Charon, founder of Action for Children's Television and visiting scholar at Harvard University Graduate School of Education.
Mr. President and Hillary Clinton, I suggest a public library card. Digital technology is transforming local libraries into communication centers, helping to close the information gap between the rich and the poor, and providing access to knowledge and to international conversations where language differences will no longer be a barrier to understanding. Children from diverse cultures will get to know each other, exchanging the songs and games that enrich their lives. My hope, however, is that in a world of virtual libraries, there'll still be shelves filled with delicious books for parents to read to their children. And there'll still be librarians to help our young people discover the stories that will remind them of our past and prepare them to live together in peace and freedom. My friend David McCullough also wanted to contribute a library card, and he suggested one from the first library to allow readers to take books home. So, this card for the National Millennium Time Capsule is from the Boston Public Library, whose motto is free to all. Thank you.
Dr. Maurice Hilleman, pioneer in the field of immunology and director of the Merck Institute for Therapeutic Research.
Mr. President, Mrs. Clinton, dignitaries and guests, my entry to the time capsule gives recognition to discovery of causes of infectious diseases and to development of vaccines that prevent them. Collectively, these have been a hallmark for 20th century medicine and provide a heritage for the peoples of the future. The childhood pediatric vaccines that include measles, mumps, rubella prevent more than 4 million deaths per year worldwide. Other vaccines prevent respiratory illness, hepatitis A and B, and even cancer. The principal diseases of children are no longer significant in the USA and in much of the developed world. My contribution consists of 8 vaccines of the 20th century which prevent illness, disability, and death, and have changed the face of the world. Included is a published review which records the origins of these discoveries.
Eric Timmons, sixth grade student at Burville Elementary School, Washington, D.C.
I dream of doing something great for my country. I dream of stopping violence so that we can live in peace.
Retired Army General Colin L. Powell, former chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, chairman of America's Promise, the Alliance for Youth, and 1991 winner of the Medal of Freedom.
President and Mrs. Clinton, ladies and gentlemen, the peace and prosperity that we enjoy on this Millennium Eve was paid in part by millions of Americans who are willing to go in harm's way to serve and to sacrifice for the nation. They were soldiers and sailors, Marines, airmen, and Coast Guardsmen. We refer to them all fondly and proudly as GIs. They all wore identification tags that we call dog tags. Rich or poor, city or country, high-born or low, from whatever part of our great diversity they came, they were made one by this simple metal symbol of their common cause and of their mortality, a symbol that would identify them to us if they paid the supreme sacrifice. Let us pray that when this capsule is opened, it will be in a world of no war, no need for dog tags or for sacrifice. And let these GI dog tags remind the future generations of the debt paid by those who went before to secure their peaceful future. Dog tags of an American GI.
Ladies and gentlemen, President Clinton and First Lady Hillary Rodham Clinton will now join our time capsule presenters to launch the Time Capsule Project. Ms. Denise Graves, accompanied by the United States Army Chorus and the United States Army Band and the New Millennium Choir, present An American Anthem by Gene Shear.
America, I gave my best.